The opinions expressed on this podcast are solely those of our guests and do not represent the views of any of the mentioned studios.
Hello, my name is Vanessa Williams. I'm going to be holding today the master session for Bins and Bytes on editing across genres. This is something that I'm super passionate about because it's kind of why I do trailer work in the first place. Um, I started off doing film editing, film studies, literature in the UK, then went to film school to basically find a way to stay there for an extra year and fell in love with editing, became very passionate about it. I got into film and television work, and eventually ended up back in the US doing video game trailers. And the thing that I love about it is that they're quicker. So a film you're typically going to be on for a couple of years. Um, maybe not. I feel like every time I get put onto a film, it's supposed to be 3 months, and it always goes for like 9 months to 12. And it's just when you're doing the same scene over and over and over again, it starts to really tear at you. Um, and I feel like with video game trailers, you might be doing a trailer, a different trailer every month. And within that genre, you're going to be working across everything. You're going to be doing, one day you're doing a cowboy and western, the next time you're doing a romance, then you're doing horror, and it just stretches your editing wings so much. And that is what I love about it. I don't get bored. So that is something that I'm really excited to talk to you guys about today. The way in which I look at genres and approach video game trailers from that viewpoint. It's just a tool in the toolkit, of course. There's many ways to approach editing, but it is something that I like to make sure that I'm staying true to because I think that the audience will notice. So a little bit about myself. I go by often Not That Vanessa Williams. That's my website, notthatvanessawilliams.com. That's my LLC. I also go by the handle at Filmette. The reason being, there is a very famous Vanessa Williams out there already, and I sometimes get confused as her. I get her letters, I get her emails occasionally, people offering me stuff that they don't really want to offer me personally, and then there's an awkward like, "Oh, sorry for the free helicopter ride. We were just kidding." So I just want to make it very clear and make sure there's a picture of me, nerdy white girl, on my website, so everybody knows who they're talking to. I've been doing film editing for over 20 years, and at this point, I've been doing trailers since about 2014. I've got over 100 trailers under my belt at this point. And on the side, I also do a podcast with some friends of mine called the Strange Eons Radio podcast, and we mostly talk about horror films. So occasionally we'll talk about editing, but it's mostly just a space for me to go and watch a bunch of movies I haven't gotten around to yet. So let's get into genre. So film genre and game genre, of course, are two very different things. In film, you have the very classic stuff that's embedded in every film goer. It's I think you're trained since you're a little kid to sit down at the TV and know, okay, documentary, Ken Burns, we're going to be in a different universe than when we're watching an action film or a horror film. And with game genres, that's really expanded and crafted new genres, including things like puzzle, MOBA, fighting specifically, but at the same time, I think that there are differences and there are similarities between the way in which film genres work and game genres work. So the differences, of course, active versus passive participation. Games, you have people who are actively engaging in it. So films, you're passive. Player agency is huge. This is a story about me. I am taking on the persona of this person. In films, there's a main character, but you might not even be supposed to be identifying with them. There's, of course, intention, developer intention, the things in which you're getting out of something that you're watching versus playing, wildly different. But probably both empathy machines. Game tonality, I think that tone can be very different between film and games as well, because just due to the length, games are not typically going to be an hour and a half experience without people demanding their money back. So I feel like when you have, a 30-hour, 120-hour experience, you're going to go through a huge array of emotions, of arcs, of story, of engagement, versus the hour and a half where you're sitting there and just experiencing something. And of course, the differences between the genres that we already talked about and the way in which you can be multiple genres, new genres, subgenres. Films only have the opportunity to be, they really need to be boxed in a little bit more for marketability. And games can be, you can be in a game where you're first person and you're shooting, and then sometimes you walk up to an arcade machine and you play like a totally different kind of game. There's just a ton of space within that. But there are a ton of similarities too. The unconscious core tenets. So um, the audience goes in with ideas. And like I mentioned before, I think with film, the audience has certain things that are just embedded on an unconscious level that they are expecting within it. And the consumer, we have this with games, but because there's new players coming in all the time, there's new games being developed all the time, those expectations are a little bit more loosey goosey. So today we're mostly going to be talking about the tool set that I discussed with genre, and that's looking at a game and breaking it up into pieces. And we're going to be talking about things like the tone and the pace. So how quick is it? How is it emotionally supposed to be impactful? The music choices, the visual effects, and within trailers, that's really specific to things like the font, the way in which the titles are working, the way in which the end card is animating, and if we're using any cutscenes. Sound design, that's game sounds as well as any added sounds, VO or title cards. And I realize that some of us are very anti-title cards, and that's totally okay. So we might also be talking about no title cards, no VO as well. Shot size meetings, and then transitions. And these are all tools that we can use to look at a piece, go, what genre are you? And how do we make sure that when we're making a trailer, we are being true to that? We're using those expectations and maybe sometimes defying those expectations, and making sure that we understand our audience and what our audience is expecting out of our trailers and of course, out of the game content, which it's trying to be true to. Right. So we don't want to use these pieces and make maybe a super fast paced trailer for something that is naturally a game that's slow and beautiful and showing off locations and making you feel. You probably don't want to go against type for the most part. So just to caveat, of course, today we are definitely talking about trailers. Sorry, filmmakers, sorry, developers. If anyone out there is watching this and going, wait, I'm trying to get information about making my game or making my film, this is really specific to trailers. So first off, let's just really quickly go over the basics of what I'm talking about here. And I know all of you know this, so I apologize, but it's just good to make sure that we mention it. And sorry for my spacing, adrenaline-y. Tone and pace. So when we're talking about that, we're talking about funny, serious, cheeky, adrenaline-y, pace, fast and slow, slow and fast. Music, the original soundtrack, sourced music, composed music, the music that we're going to be using within our trailers. VFX, I mentioned this earlier, so title card animations, end card animations, cutscenes, animations crafted specifically for the trailer. I know that I was lucky enough to work with the Power Rangers trailer, and that had animations that were crafted for it alongside it. That was really cool and interesting and neat to experience. Sound design. So those are the in-game sounds, the sourced sound effects, the boosting sound that we might do throughout that is not necessarily trying to replicate what we're seeing, but things like big booms and strings and things that we're pulling along the way to ensure that maybe you're getting more out of the music, maybe you're getting something out of the tone change, and of course, leveling the audio. VO versus title cards versus none. We kind of really briefly talked about that. Shot sizes, and this is really useful when we're thinking about capture as well. So, I'm sure all of you guys know this. If you don't, please check it out. I would suggest studiobinder.com. When I used to teach editing and to filmmakers, I would often send them over to this website. It's very, very, very helpful to talk about what kinds of shot sizes you might get. In fact, let me bring that up really quickly for you guys, just so you have a brief idea here. It's just really, really good at breaking down the different kinds of shots you get. And I think the main thing that you need to remember with shot sizes, I know that we're stuck to an extent. We're stuck with what the game does. Sometimes that's a top down, sometimes that's a point of view. But when we're capturing, if we have the ability to be using those free cams, we just need to remember that when we're in a wide shot, we're giving information, we're showing off action, and maybe even showing comedy. But the closer we get, the more emotional and the more impactful that is. So that's just something to always bear in mind. And that's true for our cinematics as well. So if we're doing cinematics, just be aware that you're telling a really specific story by the shots that you're choosing to show. And of course, there's the fun extras, bird's eye view and point of view. So sometimes you can mess around a little bit, show third person, sometimes first person. Just know that your audience is interpreting something when they see that. And transitions, star wipes. This is again something to think about when planning out capture. And that's more what kinds of things we're shooting. So are we going to try to do are we just doing straight cuts? Are we going to try to do some invisible cuts, jump cuts, cross cuts? Do we want to show the same action being played in multiple spots? So for example, a character running across scenes. I use this often where we're copying the character from space to space to space to space to space. It's like, okay, look, this world has farmland and it's got a city and it's got underwater, how do we want to think about the different transitions that we're going to be using? How can we amplify or make our trailer unique using transitions? And again, there's a really good Studio Binder link for you too. So the mission is to figure out how best to make this trailer. So we're going to talk to our client. We're going to play the hell out of the game. We're going to figure out the genre and the tone, and we're going to find this from the client too. We want to know what their expectations are, what they think that their unique selling points are. And then we're going to start to make a plan. What is our 3-act structure? What are similar games and trailers? What is our audience going into this already thinking about, already knowing about, and bringing themselves to this? Are they going to look at our trailer and go, oh God, it's just another, roguelike blah blah blah. Oh, I don't want to do that. Or what is it that's already out there so that we're not repeating something? Or at least just being aware that we are repeating something. It's okay if that's the case too. And then of course we combine all of these ingredients to make our awesome trailer, like cake. So I want to look at something and just pretend for a minute that, let's say I got the dream. Okay, I got to make the Halloween game trailer coming out September on its way. How would I approach this? I realize that there is already a trailer out there. I'm not here to criticize the trailer much. I'm it might be one of you guys who made it. So if you did, I hate you and congratulations. I'm a huge fan of John Carpenter's. So what would I do if I was given the Halloween 1978 game? So first of all, I would watch the film because I think a lot of people, the horror community is extremely strong. This might be bringing in people who are already players, absolutely, who might be playing things like the Friday the 13th games and Killer Clowns, and there's already an audience of game players, but there might be people who are totally passionate about horror who might be interested in getting into games just off of the property. So I would then, of course, watch the film, research the game, and I would cry because I'd be so happy. So let's just watch a little bit of this. Okay, this is like a pre-chase scene, right? Is this the fastest chase scene you've ever seen in your entire life? We're really slow, right? We're extremely slow. But we're already getting a lot of information about the expectations our audience is going to have. We're seeing dark lighting. We're seeing our character, we're getting this sort of mid-shot size, probably a couple wides in here too, somewhere, just to tell us what's up. And the music, we already know, it's synthy. It's super synthy because it's a very famous John Carpenter style. Can I just also say that in 1978, this is a jump scare? Like, I just want to note that. That is also a jump scare in 1978. Okay, awesome. And then once we start getting the chase scene, the pace continues to be really pretty slow, even at its fastest. All right. So, of course, our audience is different now. The audience that would have seen this movie originally is going to have a different idea of what's scary versus what one now is going to expect. So I realize that, you can't make, I know, synth speaks to me too. I get it. Um, the audience nowadays is going to expect something faster for sure. But, you also want to still try to be as true as you can to what you're seeing, to that huge, huge, huge inbuilt fan base. So, what can you do to make sure that you're being true to that stuff? Well, let's look at the trailer that they have a bunch of trailers at this point. They're showing off the first person version, the fourth person version, 4-player version, and you're going to get different versions. So I'm going to show one specific trailer. This is their website, by the way, and you can already see what they're borrowing. They're looking at the font type, right? The font is going to be reminiscent of Halloween. It's not exactly the same, but it's pretty close. I like this. Very slow head movement. Thank you, Michael. And then as we scroll down, I kind of like this too. We're showing a sort of slow walk across the Haddonfield POV. That's pretty neat. I like that. They're using similar color schemes to what we just saw in the trailer, or sorry, in the clip, right? So we can see it looks like this isn't a super accurate color rendition, but it's, we see the blue pops, the brown pops, and I believe that they're trying to invoke that as well. They're trying to keep that 70s aesthetic. So let's see what they did.
There is so much evil inside him.
Okay, back inside, everyone.
Let's go, Myers.
Fueled by his rage, I shudder to think what he might be capable of.
Since when do they let them wander around?
Myers is out. Secure the gate.
I knew what would come next. Every soul unfortunate enough to cross Michael's path would suffer. No one knew of the evil that was walking among them. Unreasoning, relentless, evil. But sometimes I think the truth was something much more terrible. I wonder if perhaps Michael is able to actually move through shadows.
Okay. There's some things that are working really well, and there's some things I absolutely hate in there. There's a VO choice that's being made with a fake Donald Pleasance, I believe. The man died in 1995, so don't love that. Don't super love that part. I also think that I don't know. They're showing off some scenes of like Michael becoming Michael, but I think they could have. I would have been more tempted to start with like some shots of him as a little kid running around because that's so iconic. And maybe a little bit more diversity instead of just being in that mental asylum space into him walking out. I think I would have been a little more tempted if maybe they didn't have access to it, but I'd be a little more tempted to show off more of the walking around the town or through some of those more iconic locations just to get just to get the audience excited. So I have a few gripes, but you can see they're using that synth music. They're using the font that we talked about. Here, let me go ahead and bring back up my PowerPoint presentation. I would have probably gone a little bit slower. I would have used the John Carpenter synth. They did that. Would have replicated the movie titles. They did that. Sound design, I think they probably could have amped it up a little bit more. But from the original, there's a lot of like choices. You're not getting a full room at any point. You're kind of getting just these little things, the sound of a knife, the sound of a door creak, the sound of a footstep. So they're really intentional about how sound design is used in the film. So I'd probably try to replicate that to an extent and not try to put in like birds and thunderclouds and whatever. Like I'd probably try to keep it a little bit closer to that sound design. VO, I super don't love that choice. But I guess I get what they're doing. I think they could have done like a Laurie Strode or just title cards. I don't know. I don't know. Shot sizes, they're trying to show off the game. So they're using as much accurate stuff as they can. Totally get that. Transitions, I think that if I was making a trailer, I might try to do a couple of really fun, stylish things, like maybe a knife slash or the shades. There's a scene where she's trapped inside of a closet, so maybe the slats. You could use like the slats in some kind of transition. A car passing by. There's a lot of in the film. It's like the slowest car chase on earth. There's a lot of Michael just driving around very slowly in the neighborhood. So that might be a fun thing to play with. I don't think that the trailer is bad at all. I think that they're trying to show off something here. But there's a few moments. There's a few things that they could have thrown in there to show off maybe the feeling of the old film a bit more. And I know that the newer films, I think the first Halloween remake that out of the newest trilogy was spending a lot of time in that asylum. So maybe that's why we're seeing a bit more of it than maybe we need to. But that's okay. So it's okay. I didn't make this. I didn't get that amazing opportunity. By the way, if anyone ever I will come at you if somebody else gets to make the Fog trailer. If there's ever the Fog video game, which there probably never will be, but if there is, I want to make that trailer so bad. Anyway, so let's talk about something that I have worked on. Hard West 2. So this was really fun. It's super, super genre specific. So the way in which I delved into this project, I talked with the publisher, who was the person that was who I was working with. It was Good Shepherd, discussing how to approach the game, how to approach the trailer, what they were looking for, what they wanted out of it. They already had a couple of trailers made, so how to make it different than those. A lot of those fully utilized the cinematics, and they wanted to see more gameplay. We discussed the unique selling points, what was interesting about this. And the developers were really, really passionate about Americana. They were, from what I was told, they were some German developers who just absolutely were obsessed with the Old West and Westerns and just that sort of historical idea of America. But of course, the game is its own thing too. It has a lot of XCOM feels to it. It's got like magical elements. Each character has their own powers, etc. So let's see here really quickly what we did for that. So Hard West 2, you get to see like their website. They're talking about what are the things they care about: explosive turn-based combat, command a supernatural posse. So each character has their own, I wonder if I can, oh, I can click on it. That's fun. Their own power set that they get to utilize in game. Shootouts on the move, right? So obviously this is super inspired by Western style. This is the kind of stuff they care about, right? They want to see the trains moving. They want to see this turn-based combat happening in this sort of action setting. And then just locations that they're utilizing, and maybe some of the lore. Okay. So for that, I ended up making 3 trailers for them. So I'm going to start by just showing you guys. I might not show the whole thing because I know I'm going to be using a lot of time. It's a cool game. I hate these kinds of games. I really enjoyed this game.
Thought you were leading your posse to easy money. Didn't believe what they said about the ghost train. Now how'd that turn out? You lost your damn souls. But there's a way to get them back. You're gonna have to travel across frozen wastes, endless expanses, and badlands that only ghosts got words for. You'll have to battle your way through places no one was ever meant to come back from. The deck is stacked against you, but luck's a fickle thing, and from time to time, you can cheat the dealer. Now, sharp shooting and luck only get you so far. When you deal with the devil, you're calling on dark forces. Witchcraft, like Shadow Swap, lets you put the right man in the right place. And Dead Man's Revenge will blast every soul in sight. When the time comes, don't just let them meet their maker. Unleash your bravado. Get that last hit to finish them off. And keep on sending them to the Undertaker. But getting your souls back ain't just about shootouts. You'll need to rustle up cash. Stock up on provisions. And tend to your wounds. And a deck of cards never hurts you. The right set can give your posse the upper hand in any gunfight. The good, the bad, and the undead, you drag them into this, and they're counting on you to lead them out. If you make the wrong call, it'll test their loyalty, and it can come back to haunt you. But earn their respect, and they'll follow you to hell and back. And it's gonna take everything, every trick up your sleeve, to get back your souls. Hard West 2. Play the open beta on Steam.
So you can see that I'm trying to utilize a ton of the kind of things we're talking about. I'm looking at a really specific genre as well as the game itself and trying to be really true to that. So that meant the tone and pace. I try to go fast to keep things moving, but there's a lot of slow moments in there. We start pretty slow with those overhead shots. We give space and we give breathing room where it's needed. And on top of it, it's such a complicated game visually that sometimes just going slow is so necessary to make sure that when we're doing those camera moves, you can see there's a good guy, there's a good guy, there's a bad guy, there's all these people waiting with guns. Like there's so much information to interpret that we did end up going really slow through a lot of it. Music. We're using, I believe I ended up using the original soundtrack, and it's got a real Western style to it. And with that sound design, amped up and thin is not correct. I apologize. I did not fix that. It is pretty full of very tropey stuff. There's, bells, there's the sound of birds crying, there's stirrups, there's dust. I tried to make sure that I was using sounds that were part of the game, but that there wasn't a lot at this point. So there was definitely tons added in. Titles, there's not a lot of titles in this one. It's really more towards the end where you get to see that sort of burn effect, where the title comes in, and I'm using that font, but trying to again keep it sort of dusty, keep it sort of emergent, and stay true to the color palette of the game. Shot sizes, this has a ton of cutscenes, and it has gameplay, and it has cameras. So I was working with my husband who does he's a game capture director, and he has done a lot of AAA stuff, and so we worked together to try and make sure that this game looked as absolutely high quality as possible and as cinematic as possible, to the point where like we were actually getting in arguments with the devs about what we could show, because they're like, no, like that barrel isn't done and I don't want to see their face, it looks stupid. And we're like, you don't understand, the audience, they don't care about some of those little details that you are frustrated by, some of that pixelization. Having that camera move slowly back through and reveal, or having us see the side-on moments of a kill from looking down upwards, that's telling a story, and that story is what they're buying. They need to know what that tone of that game is, what that unique selling points of this game is, and they want to live in the world of this game. So sometimes you'll end up kind of having to have this discussion with the developers where you're really explaining to them it's not the entire purpose of what the developers are doing is perfectionism. They're trying to get the feel of the movement right. They're trying to get the sound moments right. They're trying to get these button presses just right. That's not our job. Our job is to tell a story. So we are pulling away from that and saying, look, this is your job. It is very important for you to see your game in this way. My job is to make sure your audience sees your game through the soul of it. What is the feel of it? What are they going to experience? What kind of world do they get to put themselves into? What kind of people do they get to put themselves into? So that's where you get to kind of get those interesting conversations where you make your case. And of course, transitions. This is a game where you can definitely have fun. I did a lot of match cuts, just like tons and tons of match cuts in this. Yes, Derek, the textures, absolutely. I cannot begin to tell you how much I don't care about like, some of the things that they're obsessed with. Oh, thank you. I'm glad that the game mechanics were explained well. It was really that was a challenge. That was such a challenge to explain such really complicated, visually hyper intensive things and just slow it down and give it them, and speed it up and make sure that the audience understood you can do a thing and disappear from one spot and turn up in another spot, or you can send a giant explosion, or like there's each character has their own thing and why that's important and why it's a really long trailer. It's a kind of an epic trailer, but let's move into one. This is a really early trailer that I did, so it's a little bit rougher around the edges. This is for a mobile game called Hamsterdam, Paws of Justice. It's super fun, super silly, super tongue-in-cheek. Before I started, I talked with the devs a bunch. I wrote out a script. So the script is something that I'd put together, researched martial arts cinema and the way in which that is cut. And I actually wish I'd done even more cutting of that style within the trailer, though I think it works out okay. And let me show you guys that trailer really quick. So that's by Muse Games. Their website is super out of date. I don't know why it says it's in prototype. Like, they have stuffies. Okay. So this one's a pretty quick trailer.
Hamsterdam. A young hamster takes to the streets ready to rumble with a gang that destroyed his home, savaged his town, and took his grandfather hostage. Cheek stuffed with rage, he pulls no punches, only tails. Starring martial arts maverick Bim as the rodent on a rampage. Witness the most ancient and deadly weapon the world has ever known, a hamster scorned. Help Bim make his way to the red light district, where evil has found a new name. Marlowe the Chinchilla, a whiskered twister who turned Hamsterdam upside down, addicting residents to his libation sensation. Marlowe Tonic. Delinquent street gangs, dishonorable gambling, and degrading hamster wheels have found a new foothold in this once peaceful village. Hamsterdam, featuring classic arcade brawling mechanics, swipe and strike martial arts combos, a series of increasingly difficult boss battles, unlockable stages across 3 city maps, glamorous hamster accessories, a scooter, and much, much more. Hamsterdam. Feel the full force of hamster martial mayhem. Now on Kickstarter.
All right, Hamsterdam. So this game, it was a lot of fun to get to work with. Let's see, there we go. So the tone and the pace for this one, fast, right? Fast and fun. Maybe a little too fast. You can't read the title cards as well as I think you probably needed like an extra beat. But that's okay. Music, I can't remember, it was so long ago now how we chose the music. This might not have been from the game. This might have been something that got sourced. But we are cutting up 2 songs, so we're starting with dun, 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 and then da 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 da, like just to keep that pace moving. Visual effects. I enjoyed the way that we used the visual effects, aka the titles in this, there is some cinematics where we see spaces that are, I think they actually went in and shot these specifically, these little pans of the map, pans of the street level view, just to make sure that we had enough content. And then they gave like specific shots of the art that we were able to then cut into and craft into titles. I think that worked pretty well. The sound design, mostly game sounds in this. I could have amped it up. This was early Vanessa. VO, VO. Yes, there is VO. I enjoy the VO. I didn't mean to keep showing you guys trailers with VO in them because I almost never use VO. I think it's really, really hard to pull off, and yet here we are. So there you go. Sometimes VO just works great. And I think this was a really fun way of talking about the complexity of the world of the game, of who Pim is, why you should care, what he's trying to do, who this gang is. rather than, when you're doing a swipe game, it's sort of hard to sell that. It's sort of hard to say like this is going to be fun. You have lots of stuff that you're going to get to do within it. And so I wanted to show off that there was a greater world that was core to this game, and not just that you're going to be sitting there, in the backseat of a car, bored trying to make these mechanics work. So I think the VO kind of helped sell that universe. Shot sizes, these are mostly cutscenes and gameplay, but I tried to show off a variety of what kinds of visuals you're going to be seeing so that you didn't get bored while you're watching the trailers. So you're not just like, oh, okay, like we're just in swipe land forever. It's like, no, okay, like there's going to be these wide shots where you're on a scooter, you get to choose out hats, you get to, see this sort of front view, villain boss battle. That's the word I'm looking for. The transitions. My transitions in this are my least favorite thing. They're so cheesy, but they do give it energy, so I can't be too mad at myself. But it was a really, really fun trailer to get to work with, and I did like that I did the kind of like multiple like shot, like push, 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 which anybody who's seen martial arts movies, there's often in the middle of a fight scene, you're going to get the kick from one angle, kick from another angle, kick from third angle, kick from, and you're like, did he just kick him 5 times or is it one kick? Which is just so classic and so fun. All right. So I'm going to just kind of start wrapping things up here so we can jump to the Q&A. I have a couple of other examples of different trailers in which I got to utilize things like tone and pace, music, and title design. So I'm just going to go through a couple of these really quick. I'm not going to show off the full trailer, but just the challenges sometimes of trying to work within a universe. So as a kid, I was just a little too old for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. My friend came back one summer and was like, I spent all summer at my grandma's watching Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. And I was like, you are a big dumb loser, because I was like 1 year too old for it. So when this trailer showed up, I was so excited to get to work on this incredible property, but I didn't know enough about it. So I had to do a lot of research on Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. What it's about, what people might care about, and have a lot of conversations with the team about the locations that are important, about which rangers are important, what their styles are. The bad guys I kind of knew because of osmosis, and it's just part of the zeitgeist. But this was a lot of fun to make. Titles or whatever. These are the animations they crafted. Okay, I was showing locations. Okay, elevator. So just really wanted to quickly show this one off. So just, trying to find a way to make sure that in keeping this fast, keeping it fun, keeping it true, making sure that we're showing off those like weird clay bad guys, the locations that are really interesting, showing that it's multiplayer, you're going to be working with a team and like your friends, side scroll beat 'em up, but in art old school, but fun, and it has all these new mechanics to it. Trying to make sure we show the unexpected and also work with these really cool animations that were sent my way. So I know the track is really fun. God, it's really fun to cut to. So then I'll just show you the beginning of this one. This was another one where it was a little bit out of my element. I wasn't as aware of this specific style, but he kept going on about Street Fighter Alpha, and I was like, oh, okay. I'm not sure, but in the end, I think we got there. So. Okay, you can already see, right, from the titles, like, this is not any trailer editor out there is gonna be like, "You would not show these titles this way." But we were trying to do something so specific. So we were working within, the things that were weird about that specific style and making sure we were replicating it as honestly as we could. And making sure that we were showing off this game in a way that really, like, showcased gave really specific feels. And then sometimes you get people who are like, I want a really dumb infomercial.
Are you ready to free the fire in you? Are you willing to break free from the 9 to 5? Are you between the ages of 18 and 85? Then you're ready, hero, for Ember. As an Ember responder, you're just a tap away from a dynamic and exciting career where you choose how to climb the ladder of success. With the Ember app, you can learn new skills like people management, health and safety, and risk assessment. As an Ember responder, you'll gain access to the latest in Ember personal fire suppression technology. Sign up today and receive a low introductory rate on your Ember equipment.
Right, so we're doing something again really, really, really specific. We've got we've got graphics on here of like payments. We've got the really hard to read little titles about special promotions and assumes liability, all that kind of stuff. And I really like the way in which we're using wordplay. So the team actually wrote the script for this one. It was Muse Games again, but getting to see the opposite happening to what they're saying was a lot of fun to work with. So, just being given a trailer, sometimes it's just really fun to think, sometimes within the box and sometimes outside of the box. Like, what can we do? This is a funny game. This is a silly game. This is a over-the-top game. How can we give into that? How can we make that work? And how can we take the feel of that and show it off for the audience? So working within, sometimes a genre for trailers means an infomercial. Sometimes a genre means other nostalgic games or nostalgic TV shows. So it's just really useful to think about the game not just from the perspective of, okay, what does the website say? What did the devs say? But also, like, what does the audience need to know about this? What is like I keep saying, the soul of this game? So let's go ahead and pop over to Q&A. All right. So do you guys have any questions, any thoughts, any ideas, anything you want to say about the way in which you've thought about genre or worked with genre, or any questions for me? Manuel, that's such a good question. How do you deal with a game that you don't like at all, but it's work that has to be done? I feel like I have a lot of experience with this because I often do a lot of corporate work as well. A couple years back, I had to do over 100 coffee. It was like how to use a coffee machine. It was for Breville. I had to do over 100 little mini tutorials on coffee. And I only drink like one type of coffee with creamer in it. So I know nothing. And it was all about like tamping and like, I think for me, what I do is I try to find something interesting that like hooks me, and I love learning new things. So sometimes it sounds horrible on paper. It's like, oh no, like I have to do like I don't love games where you have to do like a chore, or you have to, because I'd rather just do chores at my house. So if somebody was like Power Wash Simulator, I think I'd be like, okay, am I the right person to do a Power Wash Simulator trailer? That's like the dumbest problem to have, right? Because of course, like that's going to end up being fun in some way. And I think what I would do is I'd go, you know what? I don't know a lot about this genre. I'm going to force myself to figure out why people are passionate about this, what people are interested in, what the developers are interested in, and I'm going to like steal their passion and their excitement and package it up and reproduce it for them. I feel like I've had to do a lot of trailers on stuff I know little to nothing about. And maybe I don't like that much. And usually I can find something that'll get me excited about it, whether that's music or that can be huge, like just getting to have a really good fun time cutting music. Or if I'm doing a corporate video where somebody can't get through a full sentence, it's like, today I'm gonna Frankenbite and I'm gonna do it so good and no one's gonna know it's happening at all. So I love those little mini challenges and all those mini tasks. And that kind of gets me going through it. Just finding something that's taking my talent and my expertise and the reason why they hired me and giving it to them and making sure that they are getting the best product, whatever that product is, out of me. It can be hard sometimes. Like that's again like why it's so hard for me to work on film and TV at this point, because you can't escape. If you're sick of something or you don't like something or whatever it is, you just have to force yourself to love it anyway and just keep doing it, even long after you have the ability to feel. So that's what I do. I love that I get to do trailers because worst case scenario, I'm only doing it for a month. Or if I'm working with a client from hell, worst case scenario, I only have to talk to them for a month. It's fine. So it's really just trying to find the things about it that do interest you. Derek, have you worked on a game where editing in the style of the film genre was at odds with clearly showing the gameplay mechanics? Absolutely. That's again such a good question. Yeah, so especially when you have a game that's really slow, or maybe a game that's not very well done or very well polished at that point, and you're trying to find a way to make it look like it is well polished and like it is interesting, or there's plenty of times where it's like, all right, I've got to find the nuggets in here. I'm a gold, go back to the hard west. I'm a gold rush person and I'm sifting through the water and I'm going to find all the gold. Maybe there's only 5 pieces of gold and I'm going to make sure that those little 5 pieces are front and center. And maybe again, I'm going to use a killer track to really showcase it. Sometimes a trailer, it just, you have a job, you have to sell something. And sometimes that thing that you're selling doesn't, it's not fast enough or it's not interesting enough. That's where we're talking about Halloween, right? The movie Halloween, you can't take, what you're getting at 70 minutes in where it's slow and it's tedious, but the audience has been in it that whole time and they're at the edge of their seat and they're holding on to the armrests, and like make that into a 90-second trailer that's going to be interesting to people. The timing just isn't the same. You have to expedite it in a way where, yes, you're going to be moving faster. Yes, you're going to be cutting quicker, because you still have that job to do. Mikhail, do you often have any influence on the writing of the VO, or do they tend to come up with that already made? Any other general thoughts on working with VO? With VO, sometimes it just depends. I almost exclusively work with indie developers. So everyone is different. Some of them are like, I have a script, I have a shot list. If you don't do exactly this, I'm firing you, or I'm gonna like freak out. Other people are like, I have no clue what to do. Please just make magic. I don't want to be involved at all in this process, really. I will let you know what I think when you get me a cut. And some people are really excited. I've had to do a lot of pitch decks where I give people like 3 trailer options, and sometimes one is VO and one is title cards and one is, whatever. Like I'll try to give them 3 options, and if they're into the VO version, then I try to, write a really cool, fun, interesting script. I sometimes overwrite, but I guess I'd rather overwrite and then cut it down and post than underwrite. I find it a lot of fun to write. So for me, it's just like yay, I get to do this. But I also I end up discouraging most developers from doing VO because it doesn't fit most trailers and it doesn't fit most games. And if you have the wrong talent and the wrong voice artist, it sucks. It just sucks. Like I've I felt really bad before when I've seen, little indie games that use a VO that's like, why is there this accent? It has nothing to do with the game. Who's this guy? Like, ideally, if you have characters within the game, maybe you can use that same actor. That would be fantastic. Or if I'll show you an example really, really quickly. I don't want to take up too much time. But there was one game that I was like, I had no idea kind of what I was getting into. And the VO for it ended up being so radically at odds with what I thought it needed, but it ended up working really well. So I'm just going to play this really quickly. Not the whole thing.
A sketchy wizard's potion turned you into the dog witch. Part canine, part spell slinger, all trouble. And that wizard? Now he's tearing up the kingdom trying to take you down. So it's up to you to show him who's the leader of the pack. Perfect. Roll your dice, cast your spells, and unleash.
So in theory, like this super weird, like surfer drawl, stoner VO, I was like, I don't understand. And it took me a while to get like the soul of this game. And I love how this trailer turned out. But it was definitely like, okay, like I had to really, really, really work with the publisher to understand what they were going for and understand why they chose the VO they did. And I worked with them on the script for this as well. So it was really interesting. But I think it works. And this is another really, really complicated game that you don't get unless you play it. So finding a way to show that off in a minute and a half, like VO just kind of seemed to be the answer. It was like a mix of VO, and we do have some really silly tongue-in-cheek title cards throughout here, like this one right here.
Ponies, laser ponies, gun-toting rats, and...
So yeah, like sometimes you're kind of with VO, it's really a big question mark, and I think you have to have the right kind of game or the right kind of trailer to support VO. Okay, and then let's see. What is, in your opinion, the most difficult game genre to make a trailer of? Oh, I do have an answer for this. And I think it's different for every trailer maker, right? Like everybody has their Achilles heel. For me, you will see in here, I have a lot of card and dice games. Like too many. Way too many. And I'm at a point where most of the time I won't accept them anymore because I am so like over trying to make like a deck game look interesting. Here, I'll mute this. But it's so hard to me to make like a bunch of cards look interesting. I don't even know how much I show the cards in this one. Is this the game? Yeah, there's cards. Oh, that's really tough. And the other one for me that's my Achilles heel is anything that's kind of like Animal Crossing. It's so boring to me. Capture is so painful, and finding a way to make the same thing look interesting over and over again. Like I really should just do more so that I get good at it, so that, ultimately I can just manhandle my way through them. But at this point, it's still really like a huge challenge for me personally, because I love making huge emotions happen, and like really, really cozy games can sometimes be difficult. Not that I can't do a cozy game, but specifically the kind where you're like planting and harvesting, and then like, you're supposed to be like, hey, this game for like, through all of COVID, right? Or for weeks at a time, it can be incredibly, incredibly difficult for me to make a trailer out of that. Because it's like, how do I make that hype and amp and interesting and like also show that it's cozy? And it's just the capture element is really, really tough for me too. So I gotta get, that's me. That's a personal, I gotta get better at that. The dice and cards, I don't need to get better at. If it has something else going on within it, like the way that Dog Witch does, where there's actually a ton of other things going on at the same time, I can like utilize the weird stuff and make it cool. But like, whew, if it's just cards, it's like, how do you explain? Your viewer is not going to read it. They're not going to read what the card says. So I can show cards and that they're fun and that they move. But like, I can't be like, this special card does this, and when you combine them, they do that. And I get a lot of these trailers. Anyway, okay, and then it looks like maybe we have one more question. From Greytone. Becoming a trailer editor for films, I've been told to create spec trailers to build up a portfolio. How would you go about that with creating spec trailer for a video game? Yes, that's what you should do. That's 100% what you should do. If you don't currently have any projects, even if you're like, I need to do this more too. Even if you're just sitting around and you're just like, you haven't got a network yet, you don't have your name out there yet, you don't have enough people like pushing stuff your way yet. Sorry, I got pregnancy breath. It's like my lungs are this big right now. It can be the best use of your time can be giving yourself little mini challenges like, I don't know, finding a game that you loved as a kid and then making a trailer out of them. 100% make spec trailers, test yourself, try it out, see what cool things you can do, see what you can bring as a unique editor, like what is your voice and how can you make something really interesting? Or maybe it's a modern game, maybe it's something that's about to come out. Like for me, I could look at the Halloween game or maybe I could just, I don't want to make an AI version of the Fog video game so that I can make a trailer out of it, but that'd be tempting. Like there are things that you can do to just test yourself, just give yourself little challenges because every single project you do will make you sharper and better. That is just how it goes. So I think that's all the questions for today. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I hope that this was interesting. Like I said, you can find me at Filmet most places, or you can go to my website, notthatvanessawilliams.com. I'm also on the Strange Eons Radio podcast. You can find me there. It's been super fun talking to you guys. Hopefully, like I said, you got something out of it. Yeah. And I think that's it.